Hello, I'm Jackie Jones of Jones & Associates Law PC, your family fixer, and I'm so glad to be here with you tonight to talk a little bit about some of the newest developments going on with COVID-19, the coronavirus. I'm almost sick of talking about it, but there are some things that are coming up, and I think you really, really need to know them. So why do I think you need to know them? Because they may affect you or your family or someone you love. Today, it's Friday, April 10th, my mommy's birthday. I know this will date the video a little bit, but everything is happening pretty quickly. But at any rate, today is Friday, April 10th, and a couple things have happened. This morning, I was looking at the news, and all of a sudden, I saw that the governor of New Jersey had issued some orders about releasing some people from prison, jail, confinement, because of the COVID-19 situation, and he is basically saying that it's time to thin out our jails a little bit, make it a little easier to maintain and manage the crisis for nonviolent offenders. And then I saw that Governor Wolf here in Pennsylvania had also issued a similar order. And since I'm a Pennsylvania attorney, of course, it became really important to me because I have clients who are sitting in jail, whether they're serving a sentence or whether they are there for probation or parole violations, and they want to know, am I going to be stuck here during the crisis? Am I going to have an opportunity to perhaps go home to be with my family, be somewhere where I may be safer around fewer people, especially for nonviolent offenders? So let's talk about who some of these people are, because of course we wonder, does it matter what you're charged with? Does it matter? Okay, so, and I hope you guys can still see me because I'm sort of reading Governor Wolf's order as we speak. So he talks about the situation with the World Health Organization, obviously declaring the pandemic, also discussing the President of the United States has declared a national emergency, and looking at the emergency management software. So the first thing he does is say, this is my authority. And again, I can't see myself as I'm reading this, so I hope you guys can. So he's basically saying, this is my authority. Okay. Can you still see me? Because this is weird. Okay. That's what happens when you try to watch yourself on multiple screens. Okay. So he basically outlines, this is my authority. This is the reason that I have the right to make these decisions and why I'm making these decisions, which is really, really important. Then he goes on to talk about, He goes on to talk about the complexities of the issue, the complexity of the spread, what the Department of Health has said. But here's the deal. He basically is saying that he wants to make sure that vulnerable inmates, including inmates who are risk based on age, autoimmune disorders, pregnancy, serious medical conditions like heart disease, diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, bone marrow organ transplantation, severe obesity, kidney disease, liver disease, cancer, other things that have been determined by the World Health Organization to be contributing factors to this COVID outbreak. He wants to make sure that those people all have the option and ability to be released. Now, here's the deal. There's always going to be some exceptions. So let's talk about those exceptions, because you're thinking, we don't just let people out of jail for no reason, right? I know how you guys think. I know y'all. You think he's just letting everyone out. Well, he's not just letting everyone out. What he's saying is that he is going to actually give opportunities for people to be released. But there are some things that you can't do and be released. So if you committed crimes involving personal injury, or conspiracy or solicitation of those crimes, you're not going to be someone who's involved in, let's say, a homicide, a murder, severe injury of another person. Obviously, those sort of things, you're not going to be eligible for this release. There's also going to be looking at, the aggregate sentence includes these things maybe with firearms related to these kind of offenses. You're not going to be eligible for release. If you are someone who qualifies for an aggregate sentence, meaning basically what's your sentence going to be based on all this stuff going on. Let's see. Look, I'm looking at all this. So many things. For these crimes of violence, for instance, under certain sections involving crimes of violence, you're not going to be eligible for this release. If you violated other specific laws of the United States, including incest, open lewdness, child pornography, certain drug offenses with a firearm, and a list of registered sex offenders, specifically those who have failed to register as well, because you've already proven that you won't register where you are. We can't find you if you're a kind of sex offender. So you start looking at this and you're like, wow, I mean, a lot of people are not going to be eligible. If you are a person who's subject to a pending felony or misdemeanor arrest or warrant while you're currently incarcerated on these kind of offenses, you're also not going to be eligible. If you're serving a sentence for a state prison and you've been denied parole, if you are someone who's convicted of another criminal offense while you're incarcerated, if you're someone who poses a risk to the public safety, if you have another one of these kind of for certain convictions within 10 years for the same thing. So there's a lot of things that disqualify you from this. However, keep in mind there are other things that don't disqualify you. So let's say you have a basic DUI, you maybe did property damage but didn't hurt anyone. You may be eligible. Let's say that you were involved in some sort of theft. You may be eligible. Let's say you have a specifically vulnerable person and you have not been in trouble for any number of years. You've reached a certain age and disability. You may be eligible. But if you are a habitually violent offender, you are not getting out under this rule. Like you're not eligible. You're not one of the people that's there. So while I appreciate that the governor has taken a step to try to get people out of the prison population, which by the way is important because you think these are people in close corners who don't have the ability to social distance, who don't even have the ability to cook for themselves or stay isolated. There's a whole process for how you have to behave while you're in prison. So it's kind of a petri dish, much like schools had to close because kids are constantly together and not able to be isolated. Prisons are an even worse form of that because they're there 24/7 and they're living together and people are coming in and out, meaning the guards, which can increase exposure rates, right? So the governor, I applaud him for taking this step and really saying, what can I do to make this better? Like, really, what can I do to make this better? The hard part is that there are a lot of people who won't be eligible. Some of them, yes, I get it. We don't want violent offenders. We don't want someone who poses a safety risk. We don't want them on the streets. But others, I don't know. He may be able to expand this stuff, and he may have to expand this some if it becomes very dangerous. I mean, here's two ways it could become very dangerous. One, it could be that the prisoners become affected at higher rates and their death rate is happening much quicker, and that we're actually looking at someone who, is supposed to be in prison for a year for stealing, and the next thing you know, they're dying. Like, that shouldn't be a death sentence. Very few crimes are even eligible for death sentences. So even if someone did something horrible, they shouldn't die because of it, right? Now, the other issue that I think that could be a problem is that the guards start really getting sick because every prison has to have a certain number of personnel to make sure it's safe for the prisoners and make sure it's safe for everyone else. If I go into a regular shift and I'm on a unit that's usually staffed with 25 people and that dwindles to 20, I'm already nervous. But let's say we're down to 10 people, we're down to 5 people. We can't control the population, which could say effectively put the inmates in charge of the prison. I mean, think about how that works. So while I'm concerned about the safety of our prisoners and what they're bringing home to their families or not coming home to their families, we also have to be concerned about the safety of the guards because without appropriate control over the prison situation, we could end up in a situation where the guards are now endangered because they don't have enough control, or we won't be able to keep people in there anyway because we don't have enough going on. And not just guards. I mean, think about it. Everyone goes to get food. Let's say you're at the food time. There's hundreds of people potentially there at the same time getting fed. Hundreds of thousands of people, depending on the size of the place, getting fed at the same time. And a lot of people who are not actual guards, people like the food service workers, the janitorial staff, people who are there to do a job, but without the protection of the prison guards, they could also be potential hostages if it was a hostile situation. So there are so many things we have to think about as we look into this. So again, if you have not had an opportunity to read the order from Governor Wolf, if you're not sure if you qualify or your family member qualifies, you can certainly call me, obviously. Even if you are not my client and you're looking for a new attorney to handle that, we are still taking on new clients. We're doing this electronically for the most part, and we are going into actual court when we have to, though I'm trying to get all my motions done with telephone and without going in if I can. But go to my website at www.mychesterlawyer.com. You should be able to see it at the bottom of the screen, www.mychesterlawyer.com. and you click to resources, and there's my pandemic page. So if you click on the pandemic page, you can actually read the governor's order because I have already published it. I did that earlier today. And thank you so much for joining me on today's live stream. I am actually trying out some new software, so you can actually see my branding at the bottom of the page. But I'm still working on lighting because of the lighting here on this side, and I'm wondering if I should put it on the other. I don't know. But at any rate, thank you for joining me today. And if you have questions, let me know. Hashtag repost because I have not yet figured out how to see the live questions while I'm doing this. I'm the worst. Oh, wait, I see a comment. I'm using two things. Oh, hey, Dan. Hey, Tanita. Oh, hey, Karen. Hi. So, again, if it affects you, and it may affect you because you know of someone who's in prison, it may also affect you because you are a victim. And this is also important if you were a victim and you want to make sure that someone who victimized you is not getting out. Likely, if they were involved in a highly aggressive, highly violent thing, they do not qualify under this. But you may also want to make sure that you're in contact with the district attorney's office or the parole board, whose job it is to keep you informed of early release. Many of you have already given your name so that you can be known when someone is being paroled. It is not a wonderful experience. I've certainly been there, and getting letters from the parole board and trying to respond to them and let them know what you think is appropriate when you've been a victim. It's not fun. But just keep in mind that we are trying to make the public safe. And one way to keep people safe is not to let people die for minor offenses while they're in prison. Another way to keep the public safe is to make sure that we moderate who we allow out automatically and who has to go through a process. The Attorney General has also signed an order for federal courts, and his federal order prescribes who is eligible for this pre-release. They are going to have home confinement, which means they're going to have a home plan where they can go and they're not to leave the house. They're still confined, but they require things like being a certain age, having certain medical conditions which put you at risk for COVID-19, being, again, nonviolent generally, and it also depends on how much time they have left. It also includes that they have not been in trouble while they've been incarcerated, and it includes a provision that they have a certain score, like there's a scoring level based on their actions while they have been in federal prison. I read over that today. I don't know all the details in New Jersey, so, look up New Jersey if you're looking for that. And I know that we were asking Delaware to do something, and as of this time period, Delaware had not issued such an order. So we're in constant states of flux. Continue to follow me live. If you miss a live, it's okay. I package these up, throw them on the YouTube channel. You can look right at my COVID-19 playlist. If you want to find my COVID-19 playlist at any time and you don't want to go searching through YouTube, you can also go to my website, mychesterlawyer.com, click on our pandemic page under resources, and you can also click the YouTube playlist from there, the COVID-19 playlist. So again, Jackie Jones from Jones & Associates Law, PC, your family fixer. Thanks for joining me. And hey, if you guys wouldn't mind, do me a favor, drop me a quick note about what you think about this. This is my first time using this software, so let me know what you think of the sound, what you think of the lighting, and at the bottom I have, some information on my name and logo and all that. Let me know what you think of that. Doing it for you guys.